No parent ever expects to bury their own child, but this story takes a shocking turn when a grieving mother does something completely unexpected at her son's funeral. Why would she remove him from the coffin in the middle of the service? Let's uncover the truth together. Kate was the captain of her university's cheerleading squad, a vibrant, confident young woman who lit up every room she entered. With her slender figure, silky ginger-colored hair, and effortless grace, she had a natural charm that kept admirers on their toes. Her cheerful voice echoed through the halls, making her a favorite among students. She knew how to captivate those around her, effortlessly commanding attention wherever she went. Cameron, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. A reserved and introspective student, he steered clear of the spotlight, content with his small circle and indifferent to the opinions of others. Though he didn't involve himself in campus activities, his striking good looks made him effortlessly attractive. Unlike most, Cameron never fell for Kate's playful charms, which only intrigued her more. Despite their differences, they became the couple everyone envied. While many admired Kate and wished for a chance to win her heart, it was Cameron who held it, without even trying. Their relationship was unexpected yet undeniable, leaving others to wonder what it was about him that had captivated the girl everyone else wanted. Barely a year after college, Kate gave birth to their first child, whom they named Edward. He had ginger hair like Kate and blue eyes like his father Cameron. Edward was everything like his mother. Unfortunately, Cameron and Kate weren't financially stable. Kate's pregnancy came too early, and there wasn't enough time to look for a good job or, at the very least, start their own business. Their parents were also against the idea of Kate becoming a mother at such a young age, so Kate and Cameron had to work their hardest to provide for Edward. Their income could only cover some bills, but despite the struggles, Cameron and Kate decided to get married. After the wedding, the couple relocated to another country. The move was an attempt to increase their income and take better care of Edward. But as time went by, they realized it would have been better to remain in their home country. There was hardly any extra income that hadn't already been used for Edward's needs. Nonetheless, they poured unmatched love into their first and only son. Cameron found a job as a local engineer and a part-time fitness instructor, while Kate worked as a sales representative for a rising business. She was extremely good at her job, but the pay wasn't exactly enough for the life she envisioned. They continued like this for a while until Kate received a huge promotion. The new position she occupied raised her salary from a few hundred to thousands of dollars per month. Kate and Cameron's lives took a turn for the better after moving into a new apartment. Edward enrolled in a better school, and Cameron pursued further education for a higher-paying job. Their finances improved, allowing for small luxuries, including Saturday movie nights. Kate's parents, once doubtful of her ability to manage as a young mother, had even urged her to leave Cameron, but those worries faded as the couple thrived. 2 years after Kate's promotion and Cameron's new job, they bought their first car and moved to an upscale neighborhood. However, they soon noticed changes in Edward: persistent fatigue, pale skin, and frequent headaches. At first, they dismissed it as an adjustment to the new environment, but when he developed chills and fevers, they took him to the hospital. After a series of tests, their worst fears were confirmed. Edward was diagnosed with chronic leukemia. Kate almost fell from her seat when she heard the doctor's report, but Cameron was quick enough to hold her. She instantly felt a cold sting at the back of her throat, and in the next few minutes, she was lost in thought. Her reaction made Cameron a little uneasy, and his instincts told him that there was more to Kate's reaction. He couldn't ask about it on their way home, as he knew Kate wouldn't reveal the whole truth. He decided to wait for the right time. The ride home was a quiet one. Cameron occasionally conversed with Edward while Kate looked out of the window, despair written all over her face. Cameron was worried about her, but at the same time, angry that she couldn't control her emotions. Before Edward, the little boy would likely blame himself for his mother's demeanor. When they got home, Cameron tried to get her to talk with Edward, but she immediately went upstairs to the bedroom, her sad expression still on her face. Kate remained the same way for the next few days. She hardly had a proper conversation with Edward, while Cameron could only watch helplessly. He wanted to confront her and possibly get her to snap out of her self-pity, but that wasn't a wise thing to do. He took time off work to look after Edward as Kate reclined further into the new role she had created for herself. There was a disturbing feeling about Kate's new disposition, the uncertainty, the thick air of disappointment and regret hanging around her. It was all too strange, and Cameron had never seen her like this before. He constantly asked himself what had happened to the girl he met during her cheerleading days and what had happened to the girl who brightened up every room she entered. One day, while playing in the garden by himself, Edward suddenly fainted. Kate had been watching him the whole time. She screamed in horror as she saw him hit the ground and darted downstairs, with Cameron a few steps behind her. Cameron had been caught off guard by Kate's scream, and when he saw Edward sprawled on the ground, he outran Kate and lifted Edward with all the strength he could muster. They drove straight to the hospital, and Edward was admitted. Cameron was finally able to catch his breath while Kate sobbed silently. Cameron immediately became furious and threw accusations of neglect at her. He wasn't really aware of what he was saying at this point, his emotions running high. Kate only looked up at him and said nothing. Her unexpected reaction to the accusations made Cameron's senses return to him. He quietly sat beside her, unsure of whether to apologize or feign anger. The next few minutes of silence felt like an eternity. At that same moment, Kate told Cameron what he had always wanted to hear since the very day they learned of Edward's illness. She had lost her childhood best friend, also named Edward, who had been crushed by leukemia. He had died while she was away on a camping expedition. Edward had insisted that Kate go on the adventure without him. He knew his time was almost up and didn't want his best friend to see him die. She returned with wonderful adventure stories, only to find his bed neatly arranged and empty. When she learned of his demise, she cried her eyes out. It was the most devastating news, and she went without food for days. Seeing her son go through the same ordeal brought back memories of her late friend. They were soon invited to the doctor's office, where he unveiled the true nature of Edward's condition. The chances that the little boy would survive were slim, but they would give it a shot anyway. Edward was put on heavy medication for the next few weeks, but he only grew weaker and lost weight faster than he could gain it. During this period, Kate practically lived in the hospital. She couldn't entertain the thought of leaving him and coming back to find him dead. It would be unbearable. While she was alone at the hospital, she made peace with Edward's possible death. The doctors placed him on medication after medication, but it was of no use. On a quiet Saturday night, after reading him his favorite bedtime story, Kate watched as Edward gently squeezed her hands and smiled, a smile that pierced her soul. She knew this was goodbye. Calling Cameron into the room, they stood on either side of Edward's bed, holding his hands as silence filled the space. Moments later, Edward took his final breath. The nurses arrived, quietly confirming the time of death before taking him away. For his funeral, Kate chose a white casket, ensuring there was space to lay him to rest with care. When the burial day arrived, the priest's prayers echoed through the air, blessing Edward's soul. But just as his coffin was about to be lowered into the ground, Kate did something that left everyone in shock. Overcome with grief, she suddenly cried out, begging for one last moment with her son. Though the request startled the mourners, Cameron urged them to let her have her farewell. But Kate didn't just look, she embraced the coffin, pressing tearful kisses to her son's lifeless body. Her sobs filled the air as she whispered through her heartbreak, "I will always love you, and I will make sure your brothers and sisters know about you. You will always be my baby." So, what do you think about Kate's initial reaction to her son's condition? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.